this session, we will seek solution to one of the most critical life skills, which is communication. When I started this, when I was walking from here to there, this session was about me. You knew that you had to listen to me. But the minute I asked you questions, when I included you as a part of my talk, it became inclusive. It was then not about me, but it was about we. That is the first attribute of a good communication, that it has to be a collective, it has to be an inclusive. The second is personal and problem and personal. I asked you, what are your problems? What are the top 3 problems in communicating? Suddenly, this talk was not about my experiences, what I know, what have I learned, and the gyan I'm going to give you, but it was about you and the problem that I'm going to solve for you. Another very important attribute of a good communication, that what problem are you solving? I spoke about 2 things. I said that we are here to solve a very critical problem in your life, which is a life skill. And I also said that I'll make sure that each one of you goes out of this room a better communicator. So in a very clear intent, I told you the outcome. Intent and outcome is very important. Clarity of intent and outcome is very important in communication. I also spoke about myself. I didn't need to, right? Because I was already introduced well. But I wanted to reinforce it on you that, hey, I've got these many experiences and right kind of brand. The trust in me, I wanted to build that trust. Again, a huge attribute of communication, that do you trust the person? How are you building the trust? And finally, the most important attribute of communication, that we may be an assorted set of people. In a way, we started to be gathered as a community. Every good communication must form a community. That's at the core. Then you can find layers of whatever you want to do. Stories, by the way, is another very, very huge, big attribute of good communication. We are wired to listen to stories. And each one of us is a great storyteller, by the way. You have it in you, each one of you. Your DNA has it. And I'm going to just tell you how is that. So, meet our ancestors, right? Once upon a time, they were Homo sapiens, and who were part of the group called hominids. We were the earlier human-like creatures. Homo sapiens originated from Africa, and around 3 lakh years ago, they migrated to Europe. They encountered many adversaries and many competitions, but they survived. You know the reason why? Their biggest competitor were the Neanderthals, who were already living in Europe, by the way. So the Homo sapiens were the invaders, so to say. So naturally, Neanderthals knew the terrain, knew the arena, they were pretty sorted, and then the Homo sapiens came in. Homo sapiens always moved in groups, but so did Neanderthals. The only difference was that Homo sapiens hunted with wolves, whom we now call dogs. That was the biggest difference between us and the Neanderthals. Disclaimer, I am not an expert in this topic. My father, who is a geologist, is interested in anthropology and archaeology. And he is the fountain of information and inspiration for me. I just collated this information for all of you. Because I thought to track the future, you have to trace the past. You have to know where we came from. What is your origin? Back to the stories. So 40,000 years ago, our ancestors formed a crucial and lasting alliance that enabled us to finish or defeat our evolutionary cousin, the Neanderthals. the guy there is the Neanderthals, and all of us are part of this lineage. Some of us can identify with this person. We were hunting with the dogs / wolves. Life was going on. While we were a team with wolves, but we were not one. We were still being beaten and being threatened by the natives, Neanderthals. At one point of time, as a part of natural occurrence and genetic mutation, one of the groups within the Homo sapiens witnessed what we can call as a natural advantage in surviving species. As their sclera, the white part of your eyes, So this is how we were hunting with the wolves, and at that time, mammoth were the biggest food in the food chain, and this represents that how the wolves were helping the Homo sapiens. So, like I was saying, at one point, due to the genetic mutation, the sclera of one of the species of Homo sapiens developed, and there was this white part. If you look at the first picture, there is no white part. And if you look at this one, the white and the black part, the iris and the sclera became very distant. Now, this was a huge advantage. What it did was, it added the gaze to the Homo sapiens. What it did to us as hunters was that now, while we were hunting with the wolves, because there was no verbal or non-verbal communication, we used to lose a lot of hunts. Because of the gaze, we were able to communicate with the wolves for the first time in the human history. So this was primarily the reason why we were able to defeat the Neanderthals and regained as a supremacy as a genome. This was the beginning of the non-verbal communication, like I said. So this is one of the early humans who used to communicate. With so many years, with 50,000 years of learning to communicate from verbal, non-verbal to verbal to storytelling to communicating, cut to now, when we meet each other, we just say SAP. We don't even say hi, hello, how have you been doing? We are a generation of SAP. If you add NP, LOL, GG, by the way, I've learned that GG is not about good God, which I used to think. It is about good game, which I was told with a very straight expression of from my son that you are a noob, you don't know. So with all these 5 words, you will have a great, satisfying conversation with a Gen Z, something that we were talking about during the lunch break. So is communication devolving as in the evolving world? Where are we now? Are we disconnected in this hyper-connected world? The good thing about a lot of things is that we don't have answers. I might not have answers for all, but at least I have the right questions. And together, we have to form the right answers. Is there a connection between smart and art? As technology is becoming smart, are we losing the art of communication? It's a debatable topic. It's a highly debatable topic, right? On one hand, you can say that technology is a carrier, it is an enabler, it helps you to faster communicate, better communicate, all of that. But with the technology started with the short messaging service, SMS. That prompted us to be succinct, shorter. But the same technology also allowed us huge canvas like metaverse, for example. So what just happened? Did we take an easier route? Is communication devolving as we evolve? I would say it depends. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on attributes, avenues, everything. And I'm going to talk about each one by one. It depends on your intent. The same person will talk with technology or communicate, express, verbal, non-verbal, all kinds of communication if the intent is there. The same person who will not have the intent will act differently. Agreed, right? All of us agree on that. So it is, again, I'm bringing home the point that let's not simplify the complex term called communication. It is your core. It is something that is 360 degrees you and the environment that you are in. So intent is very important. If you have the intent, you will find ways, mean, words, expressions, everything to communicate. Interest. How much are you interested in making sure that communication works? Whether it is in your personal life or your professional life, what is your level of interest? That has a huge ranking on how you communicate. By the way, technology is again in the background, like it always is. It's you who's choosing it. Aspiration. What's your aspiration? And it can be a series that if you're interested, what's your intent? What's your aspiration? And yet again, it is at the core. If you aspire to do something, communication will happen with or without technology. Urgency. How urgent is it for you to communicate? What is the core? Experience. This is very important, guys. Very, very important. We all work, behave, act, react, communicate as per our experiences. And that is the reason why, because we are talking to a lot of students, I would really urge you to go out and have lots of experiences. Lots of experiences. Most of those experiences will tell you what to do, and some of them will tell you what not to do, and maybe some of them will leave you confused, but at least you will have an experience to do that. Exposure is part of the experience. The more you put yourself out there in a situation, the more you are uncomfortable with situations around you, the more you say that I will go ahead and do this, maybe I will fail. That's the exposure in life. And the more you expose yourself to the real situations, real problems, real people, that's when it will have a direct impact on your communication skills. Impact. What are you driven with? What are you driven by? What is the impact you want to create? If I was just here to just have a great TED talk, I would have been very superficial. But I looked at the audience. I looked at the intent. I had aspiration to make sure that I connect with you. But most importantly, I wanted to create an impact where if I'm able to mobilize some people, few people, one person, to think differently, that's what drives me. So impact is very important. That can also go by the word purpose. Empathy, again, and I use the word empathy a lot of times because I truly believe at the core of it, you have to be very, very empathetic in real sense, then only you will resonate. Skills, of course, if you are going to expose yourself and experience things, you will develop skills. And the whole live lab, live class, live master class that I spoke to you about, which life throws at you, that's where you will gain a lot of skills. Confidence, I've spoken about. So if we have all of this, if we have SaaS, software as a service, if we have platform as a service, if we have infrastructure as a service, do you think it's time for probably something like communication as a solution? Because if we have a jargon around it, maybe it will work, maybe it will become, it will have a swag, and if it has a swag, maybe people will want to adopt it more. This is a very, very important aspect. Communication is at the core, and at the core of everything is communication. It can never be an isolated process, because it is not an isolated process. It means that person, that individual, what was his intent? What was his interest? What was his aspiration? What was his, how did he reach out? How was he empathetic? How was he inclusive? All the things that you can think of in a communication. So whenever you're talking or reaching out or communicating in life or in livelihood, make sure that you are thinking from the other person's point of view. And that is what we call matching your brain with the other person. You have to match your brain with the other person. Communication is not about, like I said, language. It is all about psychology. It is about how well can you read somebody's mind. How well do you understand what is critical for that person? How well do you know that how can you help? So problem solving, conflict management, solutioning, all the soft skills that you can think of, everything is communication. We all know that we are living in a never normal. It is going to be a never normal. Brace yourself for that. Today it was pandemic. Tomorrow it will be something else. It's always going to be a very, very destructive cycles of world that we'll be seeing. Who, just like the Homo sapiens, who actually knew what was their environment, who actually learned to make sure that they were better off than the natives, who created communication with wolves so that they can survive. Maybe now is the time to evolve to a next level as the world evolves. So in a never normal, you have to continuously get into the cycle of learn, unlearn, and relearn. You can never say that I have done it all. No, you will never be done it all person in your entire life. I can write it down today. So get into the habit of being extremely agile, extremely flexible, always wanting to learn, ready to learn. And in the end, I will leave you with this image which says that whatever you are driving, whatever you are riding, whatever are your tools, whatever is your age, stage in life, you have been given this vehicle called communication. Drive it well because you are in the driving seat of that vehicle. Do not wait that I will become a CEO or a manager and then I'll be a great communicator. No. The kid on that toy, this person in a bullock cart, that racing driver, everybody is driving as per their own needs. So make sure that you're driving well and make sure that you're reaching where you want to reach. Thank you so much. You've been a great audience.